Here's today's First Word Daily Devotion.
January the 3rd, and we look today at Genesis chapter 4, as well as Matthew chapter 2, verses 13 through 23, Psalm 3, Proverbs 1, verses 20 through 33. We continue down the path of seeing how God's good creation unravels from the fall, and in particular, in Genesis chapter 4, we see the bloodthirsty humanity. Here we're introduced to Cain and Abel. Look at verse 1. Adam knew Eve his wife. She conceived and bore Cain, saying, I have gotten a man with the help of the Lord. And so here is Eve's demeanor. We see Eve's demeanor as one who is, again, hoping in what we saw yesterday in the promised seed. Remember what we saw in Genesis chapter 3 in verse 15. It says, I will put enmity. This is God speaking to the woman, or God speaking to the serpent about the woman. I will put enmity between you and the woman, between your seed and her seed. He shall bruise your head, and you shall bruise his heel. And so as we begin to see the biblical narrative unfold, we come to Genesis 4, and we see that Eve knew his wife, and she conceived and bore a son. The son's name was Cain. And Eve's demeanor, again, she's putting her faith in the promised word of the Lord, or we can just simply say she's putting her faith in the word of the Lord. She's demonstrating that by what she says, I have gotten a man with the help of the Lord. And of course we have this episode unfolding where it says that they took offerings and offered them to the Lord, Cain and Abel. And of course the Bible says in Genesis 4:4, the Lord had regard for Abel and his offering, but for Cain and his offering he had no regard. We're not given a reason for that. It just simply says what it says. And then the Bible says this, so Cain was very angry and his face fell. And so there's a first indication again of the unraveling of God's good creation, as well as we see the bloodthirstiness of man. Look at what happens next. The Lord said to Cain, why are you angry? Why is your face fallen? If you do well, will you not be accepted? And then here's a word for us today. And if you do not do well, sin is crouching at the door. Its desire is contrary to you, or it's towards you. But you must rule over it, or you must master it. And then look how quickly things unfold in verse 8. It says, Cain spoke to Abel his brother. When they were in the field, Cain rose up against his brother Abel and killed him. And then we have the Lord coming again. Graciously, he knows all things, he sees all things, but yet he comes to Cain and he says this, where is your brother? And then of course Cain, I do not know. Am I my brother's keeper? And so then Cain is then cast out of the presence of the Lord. A curse is put upon Cain. And then we see the line of Cain. We see the sons of Cain. One in particular that we're told about is Lamech. Lamech said to his wives in verse 23, Ada and Zillah, hear my voice, you wives of Lamech, listen to what I say. Here's the bloodthirstiness. I have killed a man for wounding me, a young man for striking me. If Cain's revenge is sevenfold, Lamech's is 77-fold. There again, placing himself in opposition to God's good ways. And then pay attention here. Verse 25. I love the Bible at this tragic chapter, Genesis chapter 4. But look how quickly the Bible gets to hope. And Adam knew his wife again. She bore a son and called him Seth. For she said, there again, demonstrating faith, God has appointed for me, look at this language, another offspring. It's the same word that we saw in Genesis 3:15, another seed instead of Abel, for Cain killed him. And then look, verse 26, to Seth also a son was born. He called his name Enosh. Look at the contrast between the sons of Cain and the sons of Seth. At that time, people began to call upon the name of the Lord. And then pay attention. Again, I love the way the ESV editors are seaming these passages together. Matthew chapter 2 and verse 13, we see the same bloodthirstiness of Cain, the same bloodthirstiness of the seed of Satan, coming after Jesus Christ through Herod. There is hope in Jesus. There is hope, as Psalm chapter 3 tells us. Salvation belongs to the Lord, your blessings upon your people.